Welcome to episode 4 of Spot the Pro. We are going to gamify screenwriting today by pitting pages from pro writers against pages from writers who are not yet professionals. Our contestants are going to try and spot which one is which, and if their team gets the most right, then they get bragging rights. But there are stakes here. If they select an amateur page as a pro, they have committed to reading the first 10 pages of that writer's script and providing them with some private feedback. So all of this is to say, we're going to talk a lot about writing today, and also just maybe one of our up-and-coming writers will get a little bit of a boost out of it. So most likely to mispronounce a word today is Jason Gruich, who's going to be reading and moderating for us. Jason's a produced WGA writer with a number of sales under his belt, and he's a series regular here along with Joe Marino. Joe is repped at Schemers Entertainment, and he has an indie movie in post as we speak. And I'm Nathan Graham Davis, and I'm going to be joining Joe on the home team. I wrote the movie Aftermath, which will be out later this year. Playing for the away team is manager, producer, and president of Bellevue Productions, John Zaozirny. He produced the movies Infinite and Eli. His writers have been on the annual blacklist more times than I have fingers, and it's fair to say that he's read a script or two. Joining John is the very guy who puts food on his table, screenwriter Ian Shorr. Ian wrote the movies Infinite and Splinter. He wrote on the show Training Day. He's sold specs to Warner Brothers, Fox, Orion, and Alcon. He's been on the annual blacklist many times, 5, I believe. His movie Deep Fake is in post. He just sold a spec to... He lives in Hawaii, and if you want to know what kind of mindset it takes to do all that stuff, well, he's up at 6 a.m. right now so he can record this episode for you all. So please make sure to thank him in the comments for that, and maybe go back and check out episode 2, where you can see one of his own first pages, which is absolutely incredible. I, for one, am very excited to see what these two have to say about all these pages. And I'll also say this, the reason that we have guests like these guys is because of all the love that you have all shown this series so far. So if you want to keep seeing more like this, just keep doing what you're doing, whether it's sharing, liking, commenting. Those things translate directly into more people seeing these episodes, which potentially means bigger and better opportunities for all the featured writers. So real quick, before we get into them, John and Ian, I would love to hear your thoughts on whether you think you can tell pro writing from a first page alone.
Well, I was telling Ian and the guys that I've been watching this series since it started, and obviously I know all the guys, and especially Nathan, and I'm really love this when it was just an idea, and I'm so glad it's an ongoing series. My wife, who's a screenwriter, and I watch the episodes and really love them, and we'll try to guess who the pro is, and it's not easy, and I had a little bit of a thought about that and why that has become such a thing, and I was thinking that I'm in my mid 40s, and I remember when I was kind of coming up, or just even in high school or in early college, and I went to film school, wanting to be, at the time I wanted to be a writer, and if you wanted to read a screenplay, it was tricky, because it was the early days of the internet, and you would, I remember buying Pulp Fiction in a bookstore, and if it was something like Pulp Fiction or that you could go and buy it, buy a bound copy of it. And as time went on, like I remember for me, probably the most influential screenplay that I bought was a compilation of Andrew Kevin Walker scripts, 7 and 8 millimeters, original script. That I read that, like I treated it like it was like the blueprint essentially. And it meant a lot to me. And then I came to Hollywood, and I remember the early days of, bound screenplays and Brads and, setting scripts out. And that literally meant, getting a messenger service and sending them out physically to people. And then I remember the time when we kind of like, oh my God, you can send a screenplay as a PDF, and, I'm actually very happy about that, because now as a manager, I can't imagine having to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to messengers to send out Ian Shorr's latest screenplay. Thank God. I can just email someone, and they can just read it at their leisure. But what I mean to say all this is that I think screenplays are more accessible because you can read them as PDFs than has ever been the case before. And I think that's one of the reasons that in previous episodes, it can be a little trickier to, I know that we're like, you guys will say things and you're not inaccurate, like, oh wow, look how they capitalized this, or how they broke that up, or how they did that, and like, wow, that's a sign that a pro would do. And then oftentimes those people aren't pros, which doesn't mean they're not obviously talented. What I mean to say is I think some of the little tricks, some of the little if someone does something, it can become very widespread, if it kind of works, is because nowadays, things hit the blacklist. If a script sells, it can get pretty widely distributed. People can read it and so on and so forth. And so it's one of those things where I think people can learn some of the little tricks, some little kind of like, oh, you do this, you break it up like this, or you kind of come in like that. And it can make, you can do that for a page or two, and like, you're like, oh, okay, you're kind of approximating that style. And obviously it takes a certain level of research, a certain level of talent to be able to even approximate. But what I've noticed is someone who reads a lot of screenplays, and I would guess probably more screenplays than anyone else on this Zoom just at the moment, just
I'm
because
sure that's true.
that's what I do, right? I'm not a writer. Is that, a first page is a decent indication of whether you're in the hands of someone who's done the research, puts the time in, can certainly tell on a first page whether or not the person has read other screenplays and put that time in. But it's when you get to like page 5, when you certainly get to page 10, 15, if you can sustain that, that's where you can really tell if you're in the hands of a pro or not. And obviously you're not going to turn this into the first 5 pages, just because that's not as fun, and
Right.
just a lot more reading and work for everybody. But it is one of those things that I think is kind of an interesting, a change from say 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that people are just a lot more aware. If they choose to be, they're a lot more aware of what's out there, what the style is. Ian, what has that resonate with you?
Yeah, I think we're living in a time with more access to screenplays than has ever happened in human history, and because of that, people are able to see what a professional first page looks like, and they know that like people's attention spans have gotten shorter, so you really have to hook them with that first page. So I agree with John that a lot of times you really can't tell if you're in the hands of a pro until you get to like page 5 or 10. But I do think that the first page is a great indicator of whether or not someone has a voice, and whether or not someone has done their homework. If they've read other screenplays, if they know like what it looks supposed to look like, how it's supposed to flow. It shows uh, some level of mastery if you can get a compelling first page done.
Yeah, it says if they've done the work, which is really important for me as a rep, because I want someone who has, you would be surprised how many times I meet people and they're like, I want to be a writer. I'm like, cool. What some of the last movies or TV shows you're like, I don't really watch any of that. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Do you read screenplays? No, I've never read a screenplay. Now to be fair, you can usually tell pretty quickly. And sometimes, by the way, every once in a blue moon, you find someone and they have such a specific voice that you're kind of glad that they didn't grow up and they're not imitating someone. Their voice is so singular. But 99% of the time, it's just crappy. But it is kind of, I think I agree with Ian that to get a first page, it's an indicator of work and research and putting the time in. But I think kind of like the bar is so high now for pros, as has been often stated. There are more people in the NFL, more or active players in the NFL than there are working WGA screenwriters. I think on the feature side, and so it's so competitive that yeah, you can kind of dance. It's like there's a line, I want to say it's in Match Point, where they're talking about, to the main character who was kind of a pro tennis player, but never really hit the big. He's like, what's it like playing top level people? It's like, well, you don't really notice in the first, rounds or so, but you notice as the game goes on that they're just at a different level that you're at. And I think that is kind of the thing, is like you put a pro page on against like a person who's done the work, put the time in, like a top ranked amateur, if you will, and they're gonna look kind of similar. You get to page 10, you get to page 15, certainly get page 30, you can notice the difference because the pro is just outpaced in terms of the information they're putting, how they're getting it across, the dialogue, all that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting. But always, which to say, I know Ian and I are really excited about reading these first 2 pages and taking our guess essentially.
Well, it is interesting. Like I think you're on point with a lot of what you said. And like certainly the bar is super high. Like I broke in the first time in 2012 and the bar was already high then, much higher than it was in, say, the 90s. But I absolutely think the bar is even higher now. And it's just like you're talking about, it's because there's so much access. But nobody has gone 4 for 4 in this series yet. And I know Jason said he's going to try and make this one especially challenging. So considering how many scripts you've read and how long you've been doing this, I'm excited to see if you guys can pull it off. And Joe and I are going to do our best to be worthy competitors. So I think with that, you're up, Jason. Should we dive into this?
Let's do it. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, A1. Exterior countryside, day, rural farmland, rice stalks as far as the eye can see. Super Korea, 1950. In the near distance, we see a small village of old-fashioned hanoks, Korean straw-thatched roof houses. Exterior Korean village, day. Close on 2 bodies littered on the ground, recently shot. Pan over to reveal a lineup of Korean villagers, some crying, all frightened, men, women, and children. Dressed in hanboks, traditional Korean clothes. A squad of American soldiers armed with guns watch nearby as their commander paces up and down. American commander. Listen up, people, we don't want to be here any more than you do. As he walks past the villagers, we stop on a young Korean girl about 10 years of age. Meet Hae-sun. There's nothing remarkable about her except for the port wine stained birthmark covering most of her left cheek. Note, all dialogue in italics are in Korean, subtitle. American commander. So unless you want to end up like these poor fellas, tell us what we want to know. Thick accent. Where are the North Koreans? No response from the scared villagers. American commander. All right, guess we're going to have to do this the hard way. He motions to his men. Women scream as the soldiers grab more people from the lineup and drag them away. Hae-sun watches it all, unemotional. One of the soldiers walks up to her. She looks at him. There's an ugly scar across his face. He grins, revealing yellow teeth. American soldier. Think I'll take this one, Sarge. And that is A1.
That's a good start.
All right. A2. Open on flames, deep orange violet. Swallowing the fronds of a lone palm tree as it burns against a bright blue sky. Widened to reveal an apartment complex. Spanish-style roofing, cracked pavement, crabgrass. Neighbors gather in the streets as firemen scramble with a hose, chopper thumping above. The whole scene is entrancing, oxymoronic, a flurry of chaos amidst a calm summer day. And yet it's all oddly muted as we watch from the POV of Grace. Sitting in a well-appointed office across the street, the Florida mom, tan, lean, and athletic, well into her 30s. She wears rumpled nurse scrubs and the sallow, exhausted eyes of someone beaten down by the last few weeks of her life. She stares at the fire with intense focus as attorney off screen, Grace, blinks, turns. An attorney eyes her from across the desk. He hovers over a stack of legal paperwork, a shade of annoyance in his glare. Attorney, I need you to say you agree with each section of the custody agreement before we can move on. Grace, sorry. Grace sits up, refocusing. Then, with a head of strain, Grace, I agree. Attorney nods, forgiving eyes, moving to Scott, 40s, Grace's handsome, soon-to-be ex-husband, who shifts in his chair beside her, hating every second of this. Scott, agree.
Fucking hell, Jason.
And
Those are good pages.
A2. Huh?
I said fucking hell. Those are 2 really good pages. Who's going first? Which team?
So usually we go just home team ends up going first typically, unless away team is like, no, we really want to talk first. So
you guys go first.
All right, Joe. Do you have thoughts, or do you want me to go first?
Sure, I can go first. That's fine.
All right, do it.
So I think it's AB, which surprises me because A1, in terms of content, I do think is a more dynamic situation to be in, but A2 has much better evocative writing. I'm more pulled. I feel like it's interesting how, with less going on, I'm more interested in A2. I'm more interested in how this is being unveiled before me versus this, A1. Just even though it is a dynamic scene, I don't feel like I'm getting quite the detail, the lived-in detail that I'm needing to really see it in a way that instantly makes me go, okay, yeah, that's the pro. So I'm going to go with, I think, I'm going to lean on my belief that if somebody can make you look at a scene that's not as interesting and lean in, that's a mark of a pro.
I think you made a really good point there. A1, it would have been my pick. But it's so close for me. Like neither of these would shock me. The reason I picked A1 over A2 is because something that's really interesting on that page is you can tell that this writer cares about all of the characters on that page, right? There's just like detail there that tells you that they're really thinking about every single one of those characters on screen, which is like very elevated craft. And so for instance, the attorney does not get the same level of focus here on page 2, but I totally agree. The writing is super evocative, and like I'm interested to know what happens when it's kind of a what might normally be a bland scene. So I'm willing to because I was wrong last time I was against Jason, so I'm willing to go with you on this one. But maybe we'll invoke our rule where we can like the first team can switch after the next one
Well,
talks. So
no, we can figure this out for a second.
Okay.
So for example, some of the stuff I'm noticing moments in A1 where I actively want more. For example, recently shot. I want more than recently shot. I want that to hit me in the gut, and recently shot's not doing that for me. This feels like a horrific thing to visually see, and
Mhm.
it is not hitting me in the gut the way I would like it to from, you know what I mean? It's, I do.
I'm gonna defer to you on this. So and let the other
If
guys
you
take it.
if you're willing to go with me, I think, yeah, I would like to do
I'm gonna
A2, but
defer to you. Yeah,
all
I mean
right,
they're both great pages.
cool.
All right, guys, you're up.
Ian, you wanna go first? I got a strong feeling on this, but I want to hear what
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
to say.
I do
Strong
too.
feeling. All right.
I think the pro is A2. And I think that just because of the confidence in the writing, the uh the opening image is so strong, just just that single word flames, and then how it guides your eye through the scene into this very
Mhm.
unexpected place with this divorce proceeding happening across the street. Like I think it's pulling off something that is tonally sophisticated.
Mhm.
Um, it's the um, it's a unique way into what could otherwise be a boring people sitting around an office talking scene. It makes you sit up and pay attention. Whereas I do think that there's some strong things in A1, but I feel like the approach that it's taking to that scene is the approach that if you take 10 writers and you say, okay, write a scene where American soldiers are interrogating a village of Koreans during the war, they would make similar choices to what you see there. Like we'll have to do this the hard way. Some of the cliches that it leans on.
Mm,
Like so, like whereas if you take 10 writers and you say, hey, go write a scene where you've got a couple in a divorce proceeding at a lawyer's office, I
Mhm.
don't think the majority of them would take the approach that the writer did here, where you're starting off in the point of view of one of the characters who isn't even paying attention to what's happening in the scene.
Yeah, that is really
Right? It's
cool.
it's the difference between
wow.
like an eight like every choice that you make in a screenplay, like you could do the obvious thing, the A choice. You can do the less obvious thing that still doesn't further your story, your B choice, and then when you land on whatever C is, it's the thing the audience doesn't expect, but that still moves your story forward. And I see it's like a C choice in A2.
Ian, you and I have been working together since 2008, right?
Yeah.
So that's like what, like 15 over 15 years. And so it's so funny, we're just so in sync. I think we only had one argument, a really serious argument once, and then it turned out it was actually just a miscommunication that he thought I was saying one thing. Can't remember what, you know what I'm talking about, right? The one, the re-up villain argument. Yeah. Anyways, but it's funny because like sometimes Ian will say like I found him, talking about me, and which is very kind, like as I'm mentor to him, which is funny because I never feel that way because I feel like I learn like he's a mentor to me, like I've learned a lot from him, and it's interesting reading A1 because there's a lot of things there that I learned from working with Ian that like, oh, this is, to be blunt, what not to do. And I feel bad because I don't want to diminish the writing, but it's just something I personally learned that I personally connect with, and I certainly know Ian connects with in writing. And by the way, certain people did not think that Ian Shorr's first page of Christo was a pro, which to me is crazy.
Listen,
Since
there was
that's
a
the
lot of
screen-
black on that page. A lot of
that's the
words.
screenplay that changed our lives. I think it's fair to say, certainly changed my life. But anyways, talk about A1. I think Joe, you pointed out the line recently shot as being a little flat. I would point that out as well. That was when I was like, really? Just because it's such a it's technically accurate. It's almost like a police running like a report of like what they saw in the scene. Recently shot, this is this, but the language is to me honestly a little flat. And one of the things I learned from Ian is people are described here as American commander, American soldier. I learned from Ian, or at least I witnessed Ian doing this, and I carried this through to when I work with other people. You don't call someone American commander. You don't call someone American soldier. You call someone, I mean, Ian, what would you say? Like, disgruntled commander, or like, or you just give them a name, honestly.
I would give him a name, like, just because, if this gets made, an actor is going to be trying out for that role, and they would much rather have a named character on their IMDb than, like Thug One. But if they're not going to, if it's such a small role that I'm not going to name them, I'll still give the casting director some element to go off of, something memorable.
Grizzled commander, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
something you're giving something evocative. Even like the soldier should be scarred soldier, right? Like that's, at least we know that, like yellow teeth, or something like that. You want that's just something that I've noticed, that you make that person pop, because American soldier, and then when you end up in stuff like American soldier #2, American soldier #3, then you're like, uh-oh, you give something just, yellow teeth, scar, things like that, whereas I think Ian very ably pointed out, and I think it's a very sophisticated move that he, Ian kind of flagged, which is, you understand that we're opening on something and we're pulling focus, essentially, right? That is a very rare thing to do. Ian's point, I think if you gave this to a bunch of other people, they would be like, we opened on like a coffee cup shaking in a teapot or something like that. You would start in the room. To open on something that is outside the room, essentially what they're saying is like, we're opening on something outside and we're pulling into the room. It's a camera move but it's not described as such, right? Which often people would be like, focus on this, zoom out, realize we're actually in. They don't actually do that, which is a really sophisticated move, in my opinion. And I think, I think, Nate, you were saying that like they don't care as much about the lawyer, but that's okay, because it's not about the lawyer. The lawyer is simply a function within the scene, and the scene is mostly about the woman, and to some lesser degree, her ex-husband,
I just mean kind of in the way, like, where, how, like, you were just saying, like, the American soldier, right? Like, this one's named attorney, right? And it's just kind of the same thing. Like, I guess I picked up on the same thing in this page, but I totally agree about all the positive things that you're pointing out about this page, and I think it's great writing too.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, and I'm not meaning to hedge our bets, but the kind of interesting thing is, I've certainly read scripts by pros, and I'm not trying to like be like, who can say, but like read scripts by pros where you're like, oh wow, this is, and by the way, even from like some of the best writers, I remember reading a Tony Gilroy script and being like, oh, this is Tony Gilroy, but like, and then sometimes, it's funny how these things kind of go. But I would say for me, A2. If A2 isn't a pro, then they should be, is what I would say. I'm very impressed by that page.
That's cool. All right, Jason.
You are all correct. A2 is the pro.
All right.
I am correct by association, just to be clear. So
incorrect. But like, I also hedged his bet. He's like, well, I'm gonna go with you, which means if you'd been like, it's A1, he'd be like, I kind of told you, Joe.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
right.
I just want to say for a second, I absolutely love how Ian broke down why
that was
A2
cool.
works. Like that
was great.
I know
did not
Joe's
have
over there
the
getting his
wording
mind blown. He's like, whoa, like,
no, it was so good. No, it was like, why
But
does
you
it
felt
work?
it, Joe, and Ian was able to verbalize it, which is the skill.
The thing that I've never thought about, and I want to just say, this is such this is why you are who you are. The idea of really breaking down, here's what, if you give 10 people this thing, what are 9 of them going to do? What is 1 of them going to do? And does this look like that 1 in 10? And in our, in this case, it's like 1 in 10,000.
Ian talks a lot about which I steal, which is he says you don't want to make the A choice or the B choice. You want to make the E choice, the F choice, in the
100%.
sense of like
100%.
you're like, okay, well, how do I do this scene? The A choice is the first choice you arrive at. The B choice is like, okay, well then maybe about this. He's like, you want to arrive at the E or the F choices. These are, by the way, things that he says that I just steal and use.
I totally agree. I mean, I've actually developed like a recent theory. I'd say I started thinking this in the last year, which is like, getting better as a writer just means that you're better at like filtering out the bad ideas quickly, right? Like it's like you have those bad ideas, you're like, nah,
just
like
familiar,
just
boring,
lame, boring, right?
Familiar.
So it's like you move past those really fast because you know that there's a better one down the line if you just keep looking for it, and so
pushing. That to me, that's what makes the mark of someone who's a pro. It's going to consistently be a pro, is pushing yourself to find, is that good enough is not good enough.
It's like, it's not that those things don't necessarily occur to you. You just realize right away, like, oh yeah, you get rid of that.
That's why I've never worked with ChatGPT. Like, to be blunt, like I know I've been a loudmouth about that, but it's like ChatGPT is always going to give you iteration.
It's going to do the homogenous
whatever, but it can't innovate. It can only iterate.
Correct.
What's already been around.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, Jason, tell us who these people are.
Yeah, tell us who they are. And great. But that was awesome.
Yeah,
Good conversation.
Yeah, I love that. That was great. A1 wanted to remain anonymous. I can say that this person does work in the industry, and this is this person's attempt at at writing. So
if we had said that A1, I'm just curious, if we had said A1 was the pro, would we have identified it?
No.
They really wanted to remain anonymous. Okay.
Yeah, the writer preferred to remain anonymous in all aspects, including the title. So, but
see, that would have sucked for
future
Tony
reference.
Gilroy once again, just
for future, it was not Tony Gilroy.
Tony Gilroy is like my personal favorite, one of my personal favorite writers.
I do want to say, for future reference, like if you're going to submit to this, like be willing to like put your name out there, because like you've got guys like John and Ian not only appearing, but like watching this stuff. So like, why wouldn't you want to get your name out there if people are talking about your work positively?
It's one of the reasons, frankly, doesn't allow anonymous people on the blacklist, annual blacklist.
Yeah. And to be fair, this writer also mentioned that this script is out to a few places.
Got it. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay.
All right.
So A2 is Matt Reichman. R-Y-C-K-M-A-N.
Awesome.
Matt Reichman. Yeah. He's a brand new WGA writer. He's recently been staffed on a Netflix hour-long, to be unnamed for now.
Congrats, man.
His request.
All right.
He's also Jason Blum's assistant at Blumhouse, and then the assistant on Ash vs. Evil Dead, and he's looking for management.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Obviously, I'm a big fan of his. So connect me up, Jason.
Look at that. All right.
First one down. Oh, man. Great set of pages, Jason.
I will say, my manager reached out to somebody because of one of these pages too. So like I
actually reached out to someone who had been on the series as well. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
awesome.
Amazing.
Cool. All right, let's do B. Keep it moving.
B1. Interior, home, bedroom, early morning. An impending tangerine glow in the window. A man and woman occupy opposing coasts of a king-size mattress. Plenty of space between them. On the east side is Rob Hanlon, 42, sexy bald with a factory-constructed jawline and lethal blue pupils that stare at the ceiling fan above. Practical, emotionless, efficient. He looks over at a woman in his lethal blues. There's a pinch of longing sprinkled over 2 tablespoons of I very much hate this bitch. His phone vibrates as an alarm rings out, faced with the time, 6 a.m. A groan interlaces the chaos. The woman isn't pleased. She rolls over, eyes still shut. This is Vanessa, 40, and she's over it. Her long brown hair is over it. The wrinkles in her forehead are over it. Rob stares at her, pure disdain. The alarm blares. The phone vibration surfs along the dresser. She waits. Rob stares. She waits. Vanessa, are you going to fucking turn that thing off? Bathroom. Rob stands over the sink and looks down. Disappointment crosses his face because his toothbrush's bristles have been invaded by aforementioned long brown hair from a nearby hairbrush. Clank, clank. Vanessa damn near falls into the open toilet right beside him. She slaps the lid down. All right, B2.
I would almost call that one without seeing the next one, but let's see it.
God.
B2.
Nate, you're very excited to get in on things, man.
It's true. It's true.
On an iPhone screen, a gloved hand clicks on We Play Piano's Instagram story.
West Plays Piano?
West Plays Piano's Instagram story. The IG story features a still of Paige Jones, 28, outgoing and drunk, making a derpy face that matches the derpy snowman on her Christmas sweater. A gloved finger sweeps over Paige's face, caressing it. The picture animates as we're now in interior small house dining room night. Paige stands on a chair holding a green and red Jello shot. Christmas music blasts, bringing tidings of good cheer to the festive house party. Everyone wears ugly Christmas sweaters. Trying to match the carefree vibe is Paige's boyfriend, Wesley Hauser, 28, who sweats in his sweater of two reindeer fucking each other as he takes photos of Paige on his phone. Paige conducts the crowd of 20-somethings. Everyone holds up a Jello shot and sings, Jello shots, Jello shots, Jello shot, shot, shots. Everyone except Wesley cheers and downs their Jello shot. Wesley, Paige, Wesley. Paige smooshes her lips into his for a sloppy drunk kiss. Wesley, they're doing the white elephant gifts exchange. Paige, I didn't bring anything. Wesley, I brought gifts for us. Come on, I bet you'll get something fun. Paige grabs a cup of eggnog as Wesley leads her out. And that's
Cool.
B2.
Do we go
All right,
first?
so-
Away team
Away
goes
team,
first. Yeah. Yep.
If you're okay.
I don't feel super strongly on this one personally. I'm interested to hear what Ian has to say. I will say, for me, my immediate reaction to B1, I didn't love it. And the reason I didn't love it was, first off, it felt like it just kind of felt like a kind of a hateful page, I would say. A little bit, like the level of anger and, you know, like I think what it was like, he's like, I very much hate this bitch. Like, you didn't need to write, like, I got it, you know, like there are other, it feels like it's taking like a lot of page, like most of the page, to get across that these people are an unhappy marriage. And I'm like, yeah, I got that pretty quick. Also, they use Lethal Blues twice, which was, there's also lines that I don't quite understand. Factory constructed jawline. I'm a little bit like, does that mean it's plastic surgery? Like, I'm not really sure what it means. And Lethal Blues is used twice in lines that are essentially next to each other. That's a little weird to me. You know, yeah, that's kind of my vibe on it. I didn't love it. Number two, I liked better. I like the idea that we're moving from an Instagram story into the from a video from someone looking at a video on a phone into the actual video. Although I do think the transition took me a second to realize that that's what we were doing, because I think it's written a little confusingly. I didn't necessarily feel like that scene was a particularly fascinating scene per se to grab me. Although I do think the device is somewhat interesting in terms of using an iPhone video to essentially trigger a flashback, I suspect. Although the content of that flashback didn't grab me in a huge way, nor did their dialogue about the white elephant exchange. So I would probably lean towards, the thing about page one is, like, it's not poorly written necessarily. It's just there's a certain repetitiveness and a little bit, it feels a little bit like it takes too long to say something relatively simple. And I thought that's how lines like, I very much hate that bit. It's kind of like, to me, I'm just like, that seems a little, feels unnecessary to me. You know, which is to say it's not a talented writer, but like, I guess I'd lean a little bit more towards the second one than the first one. But Ian, I'd love to hear your immediate reactions.
So this is probably your first clue that I'm not very smart. When I was reading B1, I thought for a second that Rob was like a cyborg because it said he has lethal blue pupils. I'm like, wait, human pupils are black. But his are blue. Like, is he a robot? Like, that was my immediate thought. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, they mixed up pupil with iris. Once I realized that, and then I have no idea what the fuck.
Factory constructed jawline would also suggest he's a cyborg.
Right, exactly. See, so I was very on board with this cyborg movie, and then it turned out to not be that.
Well, we don't know that. She could really hate her cyborg husband. Ian.
Right. It could be that they're just not making it work. Also, I have no idea what an impending tangerine is. But I think like I'm on the same page as you. Like I didn't have a super strong feeling about either, but I'm edging towards the second one, edging towards B2 because I thought I thought the intro was clever. I thought it had a really strong control over the emotional temperature of the scene. Like I felt like I was at that, sloppy drunk Christmas party.
Yeah.
I I really I love the level of detail that they went into creating the vibe of that room. Um, I feel like both of them fell into the trap where you come to the end of the first page and you pretty much know as much as you did towards the
Coming in.
top. That
Yeah.
there's no turn there. There's no twist. You're just getting repeated information that you knew earlier in the scene. The first one is guiltier of that than the second. Like the vibe of this marriage you got from just the space between them on the bed.
You could just say that and you're like
Yeah.
moving to the next thing. I would also note saying like he's like there's this whole thing of like these people clearly don't like each other. You can tell like they're separate on a bed. I get that immediately. He's like, I very much hate this bitch, which is like number one, yeah, no shit, dude. There's other ways to get that across. Also, just using that phrase, it is such kind of like a hateful phrase, using like bitch, I would say. Which I feel like I'm repeating over and over, which I apologize for. But that is something that's going to turn off a lot of readers just like that, and turn me off, by the way. I'm like, like you didn't need to use that phrasing to get across this point, in my opinion. And that to me, again, is a sign that this person is that strikes me as maybe not a move that a pro would personally make, in my opinion, because they would know it would be. It's such an evocative phrase that people can have an immediate emotional reaction to it and be like, oh, I don't know, and it's not going to be a great, not everyone, but some people, it's not going to be a great reaction. So I think both Ian and I are that two is the pro. Is that fair to say, Ian?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Although I will say with two, the thing that I was looking for, and if I were to give the writer a note, is if you're writing a comedy, you want to get a laugh on the first page, preferably from dialogue or something that the character does. Like right now, like
it's a comedy. I didn't get the sense like a gloved hand caressing an iPhone story. The gloved hand to me felt like a thriller.
That actually, yeah, that part, yes. Like just everything.
The Jello
in
shots,
house,
Jello shots,
like
Jello,
yeah, like the reindeers fucking on the sweater. The
it felt like a stalker
shots,
story to me from the opening. That
See,
someone's stalking something.
Okay, you make a good point there. Like I was looking for something in the dialogue that that gave me a better sense of the characters' voices. I was like, I was probably looking for a joke that if this is a thriller script, there would be no reason for the joke to be there. So you know what,
it reminded me a little bit of a little movie called Always Watching. If you're
let's listen.
Ian's like, I don't know what you're talking about, and
I only talk about that movie with my therapist using therapy dolls. So yeah, I think it's B2.
So you're going 2? Okay.
Whole team.
So Joe, I'll start this one off. I still think it's 1. And it's actually kind of for the reason that just got discussed right there about 2, where, to me, the tone of 2 was not readily apparent, or what the entire script would be, right? Like there's, because you got the gloved hand and like, it kind of feels like, okay, maybe there's some like thriller vibes or something. And then you get to the next scene, it feels like it's a comedy, but there's no joke on that page. So like, I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to be, and I'm just not hooked by it for that reason, even though the writing itself is quite good. Like I can see what's there. I'm just not getting what the movie's supposed to be. On page 1, I have to admit, like after Ian pointing out the blue pupils, I'm a little bit thrown by it.
Hey, they're lethal.
Yeah, but I didn't mind the lethal blues being used again because it was a different usage of it, like being pluralized. I thought it was fine. I do agree that if I was just reading this because somebody sent it to me, I would have absolutely bumped on the line, I very much hate this bit. But what I'm sensing in page 1 is a lot of confidence. And like if I'm trying to just suss out who's the pro, I feel like this page is much more confident than page 2 is. And that's what makes me think that this is the one. But I'm curious on your thoughts, Joe.
I'm going to go with B1 too. I have B1 as well. There we go. My biggest thing for this is, so it's so fascinating to hear how a rep would respond to that first
Yeah.
page, because for me, I'm looking at I Very Much Hate This Bitch and the Lethal Blues and the Factory Constructor Jawline and the Impending Tangerine. And that feels like such confident voice that I'm buying it regardless of how I feel about the voice. The voice still feels like voice to me. So I'm
Confidence can
giving
be a
it.
sign of a pro, but can also be the sign of someone who is very strong-willed in their
That's
opinions.
true. That's true. Like for me, I definitely, so I didn't check out on the I Very Much Hate This Bitch. I'm so interested in the idea of hate. I loved how you had said it felt like a hateful page. It felt like hateful writing.
It
And that it
felt
was just
misogynist too, if I'm being really, to be completely plain. It feels like a misogynist page. And maybe
Okay.
that's what the person is feeling, but it felt a little bit like that to me. And I'd obviously have to read more to see where it's going. But the female character is described almost entirely in very negative ways.
Yes. Which might be just the point of view of that character, but it's hard to know without reading more. So
You know, I do have to say certain details in B1 do leap off the page, like the phone vibration surfs along the dresser. Like I'd never thought to describe it like that, but yes, that's what it looks like. So like there, you know, looking back on it, there are details that feel like they were
It's
done by
confidently
pro.
written.
we do
I
have a
completely
rule where
agree.
you can change based on our
I'm not
so,
shy.
No.
I'm going to veto that one.
all right, so Joe, we're going with B1.
Yeah, I'm going with B1.
Right.
And I will just reiterate the thing you said, which is I understand what page one is, even though it might be a beat several times. I buy the beat. And page two, I can't quite figure out if it's supposed to be a comedy, if it's supposed to be a thriller.
Yeah, that's all
Just
fair.
and the language should be telling me that, like a gloved hand.
I mean, to me, what it is, it's a stalker looking at an Instagram story of a couple that he's about to move in on, which is why the story is banal. It's a banal memory of them going to a Christmas party. You're gonna get out. My guess would be you're gonna get out of that story in a page or two, and then they're gonna be like creeping outside their house or some stuff like that. That's my vibe.
Okay,
That's the vibe I'm
that makes
getting
sense.
from it.
That makes sense. All right. Yep.
Jason, you want to do
down.
the reveal?
Yep. So the pro is B1.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
And it might be from a writer you know. His name is David Lee Williams.
Oh.
Wow. Wow. David, that's a very interesting
John,
page that
John and Dave hang out. That's awesome.
I'll talk to Dave about that page. I stand by my opinion of it.
No, that's so. Damn, I should have known. I'm mad. I'm actually mad.
David is a friend of all these guys, Ian, as well as a friend of mine.
Best buds.
I am mad that I pride myself at being able to get certain tone, and especially from a writer I've read multiple times. I can't believe I didn't catch it.
There are very few writers that I would like say, oh, 100%. I could blind read that person and tell who they are. But anyway, that's really funny. So
yeah, that was from Dave's one of Dave's specs called Last Rob Standing. It's kind of a time loop script. It's a pretty cool script, but he's repped at Verve and managed by Mitchell Bendersky at Expectation Management, and he's also started a successful YouTube gaming channel.
And he's got to be on here. So
yeah, he's going to be a guest on here in a future episode.
So we'll be.
And I'm going to get a bunch of messages from Dave about this.
Oh yeah, you are absolutely. We're all going to get.
We can discuss more in private.
Still waiting on that.
Yeah. All right, cool. Who's B2?
B2 is Catherine Botts, Botts.
I recognize that name.
Yep, she's on Twitter, I believe, and she's a Bloodless 2021 winner, AFF semifinalist, Screencraft Horror semifinalist, Page quarterfinalist. Born and raised in Texas, she mostly writes horror, sometimes comedy, and she co-produced her partner's directorial feature debut and is a board game lover.
Cool. All right, moving on to C.
All right, C1. In the corner of a black screen, Proteus connecting, engaged. Virtual reality, VR POV. Interior, car, rural road, night. An image pops on. We're in the driver's seat, watching headlights plow through darkness. Yellow slashes run at us. Towering pines blur on either side. Edging over a rise, red taillights appear in the distance, then disappear into a hollow. Another 100 yards, and the taillights are back, but now rapid flashes, brakes pop. The car doesn't slow, barrels toward a sharp curve. We watch the driver fight the wheel. The car jerks violently, then flips. Headlight beams cartwheel across the pines as the wreckage hurtles into a shallow ravine. Slowly, our headlights sweep up to the edge. Throwing open the car door, we rush toward the bent light, slide down the embankment toward the upside-down, crumpled wreckage. Pressing up against the spider-cracked passenger window, we see a young, raven-haired woman, Pool. Blood trickles down her broken glasses. She's in shock. Behind her, a mangled mess of a man is unrecognizable. Punch, punch, the glass breaks. A desperate hand snakes through the hole and strains to reach Pool. Her voice trembles. Pool, Henry. On the shards of glass beside her, we see a broken reflection of the man who initiated this VR experience, Henry Macklin. The image disassembles and glitches, unable to resolve segment 147392. Moving on to C2, Black. Jasmine, voiceover. People like us don't usually get love stories. Rick James and Smokey Robinson's Ebony Eyes begins. Fade in. Interior aisle 5 grocery store night. Jasmine Waters, 20, Black. A woman who has hopefully seen better days locks eyes with us. Her disheveled hair is covered with a giant black hoodie. Gym shorts and sandals finishes off the lackluster outfit. Her hazy brown eyes tell us she probably hasn't slept in 2 days. The store's fluorescent lights shine above her head like a spotlight, almost as if she is the only thing in the whole store that matters. Jasmine snaps away from her cold stare. She looks around, keeping her head on a swivel. Finally seeing what had her attention, diapers. The last pack on the shelves, like a bar of gold. It has a bit of a glow. The price tag under a giant on sale sticker says $11.98. Jasmine can't handle the anticipation anymore. She reluctantly nods and sighs. She snatches the bag of diapers from the shelf, lifting the bottom of her hoodie and tucks it in tight. She faces the door, store clerk, off screen. You need any help? Jasmine quickly yaks the diapers from underneath her shirt. She holds it as if it's her next purchase. She turns to the store clerk. Her stress morphs into a half-hearted smile. Store clerk, need help? Jasmine, oh, no, I'm good, great. Store clerk, are you sure about that? And that's C2.
All right,
Home team?
Joe, we're
Yep.
up.
All right.
I'm feeling C1 for this. I think there were cool things in both in terms of like detail. Like I did like on C2, for instance, like the fluorescent lights shining on her head like a spotlight. But even so, I don't know, C1 to me, and actually I liked the opening voiceover on C2 as well. I thought that was an interesting way to open it. But I don't know, C1 to me felt more cinematic, more engaging, pulled more into it kind of right off the bat. I don't know, I'm just, my instincts are all leaning toward that one. What about you?
This might be the hardest one I've come across. Jason, you got me. You really got me on this one. Because I really like so many aspects of both. They both are checking a lot of the boxes that I would be wanting to see for wanting to keep reading. I feel like I'm leaning ever so slightly towards C2, just because again, let's go back to that great Ian way of registering something. You know, what's the more unique presentation? And I feel like I'm more inherently impressed by the scenario that is being presented by C2. There's a lot of, I feel like, high level choices being put here. And I'm just really interested in just the core idea, like the idea of that as a scene feels pro to me. Like this doesn't feel like the type of scenario a non-pro would have come up with, of somebody in an act of desperation trying to, you know, steal on sale diapers. I think honestly the on sale part is the part that does, it's not just a person stealing diapers, it's a person stealing on sale diapers, and just like everything being lit up, she's being lit up. I don't know, there's something that is beyond confidence to me for C2, whereas as much as I love everything in C1, I do feel that is the more solid but traditional way I've seen this type of scene before, and I don't think I've seen the scene presented the way it is in C2. So I'm split, man. I'm willing to go with you on this one.
I feel fairly strongly about this. I mean, there's just so many things in C1, the way it's written, like yellow slashes rush at us, you know, like that's like stuff like that, or just the description of the red taillights, you know, disappearing into a hollow and then appearing again and pumping, right? And like, and also the last line on this page, it's a really good hook for the next page, unable to resolve segment, you know. That tells me, okay, cool, like clearly like there's more. This is not just somebody playing some virtual reality video game, or right, like there's something real going on here.
I'll go with you. I'll go with you on this one, but I know for me, I think I would be far more excited to turn the page for C2.
Well,
but
let's
that's
see what
not
these
in any
guys
way
say.
a bash on C1.
But I definitely am feeling C1.
All right,
cool.
I'm with you.
Gentlemen.
All right.
Ian, you go first on this one.
Yeah, this is super tough because these are both really strong. I'm leaning more towards C1 just because of how strong the visual writing is. I can see and feel all the movement in this scene. It's got this great sense of propulsion to it. I like how they sneak in a little bit of the theme at the very bottom, the unable to resolve segment that, you know, that already hints to me as to what what kind of journey the main character is going to go on. I feel like if you're able to like smuggle some of the theme into the opening scene and the opening page, especially if it's an action sequence, then that's a particularly sophisticated move. Of course, there's always a chance I'm just reading too much into this and it has nothing to do with that, but my instincts ping that. I love all the stylization in C2, like that's super confident, you know, like starting with Rick James and Smokey Robinson and that cool opening voiceover. The, you know, the almost theatrical way that the main character is presented in this you know, very compromised situation. Like I love the contrast between, you know, somebody who is in a position where they have to shoplift on sale diapers, but it's being presented in this very heightened, you know, almost theatrical kind of way. There's a couple things in C2 that bumped the read for me that made me think that it's probably C1 is the pro. It's it says Jasmine snaps away from her cold stare. Like I was like, wait a minute, who's cold stare? She snaps away from.
Yeah, that bumped me as well.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I had to go back and reread that. And then
Who's she staring at?
Yeah,
or what's she staring at?
She quickly yaks the diaper. So I was like, was that supposed to be yanks?
Yeah,
I think it's supposed to be yanks.
I don't really know.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, what's yaks?
So like if yaks is a typo and if there's a, you know, a moment within, you know, the first half of the first page where I have to go back and reread to figure out what a confusing beat actually means, that usually means that I'm dealing with someone who hasn't gone pro yet. So yeah, I'm gonna go with C1 on this one.
I feel the same way that Ian does. I feel I would agree with Joe that I really like the scenario presented, which is a desperate woman stealing diapers. And that's like, I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. What's going on here? I do feel like it takes a long time to get to that. And there are aspects, as Ian kind of points out, she's like, she snaps away from her cold stare. What does that mean? Who's she staring at? Because we previously say she locks eyes with us, right? But we're obviously not in the scene, so it means you're kind of staring off into the camera. I think what they mean to say is that she's deep in thought or deep in like conflict or not sure what to do. But it's not described quite as that. It's a little confusing.
She snaps out of her trance, something like that.
It also says she can't handle the anticipation anymore. The anticipation of what? I'm not really sure what they're referring to. Anticipation tends to mean like you know, oh my God, I got to open this present. What's inside the box or whatever. But what they really mean, she can't handle the pressure or the stress. So the word choice is a little fuzzy to me. The scenario is interesting. I agree that I like the kind of the voiceover and the song opening. I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. But it feels to me like it presents an interesting scenario. But the way that it's describing the main character's mental state of mind is to be honest with you, kind of confusing and a little unfocused. I would say for C1, I think it's more classically, technically written in the sense of like, okay, I will say I feel like I've read a lot of versions of this before. I've read a lot, I mean, just because what I do, I've read a lot of scripts about some sort of invention that allows you to relive your old memories and trying to like strange day, like versions of Strange Days, versions of Minority Report, versions of something where you're haunted by the death of a loved one and you keep trying to revisit it to do something differently, which is what I would guess this is. But it's confident, confidently written, some good description. I mean, to me, like, this doesn't really matter. Typos are not a huge deal, I will honestly say, as a rep, unless they're so egregious. I'll put it like this. There's in C2, there's the typo with the yaks, which was particularly weird to me because it's a very specific word. But it's more like the words that she snaps a cold stare anticipation. I'm like, I don't think you're using those words correctly, and at least in terms of my reading of the scene, as opposed to like there's a typo in C1 where taillights is spelled one way, edging over its rise, red taillights, and then in the exact next sentence, taillights is spelled as two words. And so I'm like, that's a little weird, but not a big deal, right? But the words, I understood the meaning and where they were going with each kind of word. So, and I think I agree that ending on unable to resolve is a bit like, ooh, what's going on here? That's interesting. It's a little familiar to me. I've seen this kind of script, or at least what I imagine this kind of script is before, but it really works. It's a standard kind of version of what I think it is, but that doesn't, don't, if it ain't fixed, don't, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, essentially, So I'm kind of like, I've seen it before, but it's well done for what it is. Whereas in C2, well, it's a more character driven, intrigue. The way that it's described feels a little unfocused and fuzzy to me, which is why I would lean C1 as I think all of us do.
Yeah, I want to point something out really quick. In C1, to your larger point, yeah, like the thing I was saying earlier, if you give 10 people the prompt of, write the opening scene of a VR memory movie or of a Strange Days, a Minority Report type of film, they'll probably write something kind of like this, but this is executed with such craft that like I'm on board.
Exactly.
I want to point out one specific thing here. The line "blood trickles down her broken glasses." We were talking earlier about the first one, the scene in Korea, and we were saying like
recently shot.
They use the words recently shot, and that doesn't give you an image to hang on to. Whereas this blood trickles down her broken glasses, like that pops off the page.
You can see it. You can see the scene.
Yeah, exactly. That's that's cinematic writing, and that's another reason why I feel like it's C1.
I would like to add one addition, not that I'm changing anybody's mind, I'm not planning to, but I want to just say one more thing that I feel like these two pages really nail for me is, or why I do feel that I gravitate towards the second set, is the emotion is stronger in a unique way. I think that I have a bias when I'm willing to forgive stuff when you're giving me an emotional space that doesn't feel super familiar to me. And I do, and the idea, I think it's exactly what John said. Like, I've seen the design, the machinations of the first page more often than I've seen the emotional context of the second page. So, but that I think that that's an interesting thing about like when somebody reads something, you don't know what they're coming. Oh, that's the thing that I really respond to. So I'm going to be looking for that. Oh, you did the thing I like. Therefore,
well, that's why we're like what we always said. Like we'll see where the next 5 pages
and we're being
because,
super picky here. Like these pages are all
that's because
good.
that's like we're picking on minor things because the they're kind of at very similar levels. There's no sense of like this one is clearly
right. Right. Yeah. So
the
like
way that honestly the first set of pages to me was much more clear in that sense.
That's funny because like that one was still the biggest coin flip to me out of all these.
Interesting.
So cool. So Jason.
You are all correct. C1 is the pro.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm
correct by association.
It's working for us, Joe. So
I can't wait. I can't wait. I will. I want to read that though. I want to read that.
Technically, we're all 2 for 3 right now, if you think about it, right? So like, but all right. So, so Jason, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's from our dear friend Andy Fromke.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Awesome.
See one. Andy's a WGA writer and filmmaker from Minnesota. He wrote a biopic about Robert Smalls, who was a freed slave who overcame incredible obstacles to free himself and eventually became a congressman, which was optioned by Amazon Studios with Oscar-winning director Charles Burnett attached to helm. Andy teaches, mentors, writes, he does it all. Love Andy's. He was a mentor for me early on.
Hell yeah.
So. The second script was from Cello Houston, his Monty and Jasmine scripts.
Cool.
He's on Twitter. He's
I
a new
recognize
writer.
that name on Twitter as well.
Yeah, he's got. I saw him on Twitter, and some of his concepts are really fascinating. So I really enjoyed his writing. He's from the Bay Area. He's known for spinning the mundane into mesmerizing smiles from the sternest faces. He's on a mission to hold up a mirror to the world. He's Screencraft virtual pitch competition finalist, and We Screenplay Diverse Voices semifinalist, among others.
Cool.
Good for him.
So,
Awesome.
Yep.
Nice pages. D.
All right, D1. Exterior San Francisco apartment building day. Turning the corner, a wild-haired, wrecked Madagascar, Lucky O'Malley, 24, in days-old superhero pajamas, holds a quart of ice cream in one hand, a big bottle of whiskey in the other. She stumbles up to a second-floor apartment. Interior, Lucky's apartment, kitchen, day. Ice cream slops into a blender, a giant scoop of peanut butter, shower of malt balls, and a long pour of whiskey. Really long pour. A lid slides on a millisecond before pressing blend. This girl's playing with milkshake fire. Lucky holds the pitcher to her mouth, too thick. Smack milkshake blops onto her face, into her red streaked hair, ending its journey as another stain on her wrinkled pajamas. Lucky wipes her face with her sleeve. She grabs the pitcher and raises it high in a silent cheers. Drinks, winces, almost gags. She gulps down more. Oh no, hand over mouth, she runs out. You're throwing up. She crawls back in, exhausted. A wrinkled list falls from her hand. Catch a glimpse of handwriting at top. The gist. She passes out. Lucky voiceover. If Mom had stuck around, she never would have let us stay in that crap hole filled with even crappier birthdays. Exterior, San Francisco, Tenderloin District, day, flashback. Rundown building in this not-so-shiny neighborhood. Interior, Colin's apartment, living room, day. But this is what you get when your dad has to adult solo. Well, kind of solo. Young Lucky, 8, in her superhero pajamas, sprints across the room and launches over the couch. She huddles low. This girl is high-strung, a little scared, and needs her dad. Front door flies open. Colin O'Malley, late 20s and self-assured, stumbles in drunk and laughing with a hooker, 25. D2.
Cool.
A silver coin is flipped skyward, slow enough to read recovery on one side and 1 month on the other. It lands, heads or tails. Interior, Marsh's storage unit, day. Only Howard Marsh, 30s, knows and smiles at the outcome. Despite 30 days on the wagon, he still looks and feels like dog shit. It could be the thrifted, oversized Hawaiian shirt, the grungy cut-off jean shorts, the smell of his unwashed undercarriage, or the recently punched-out tooth. The ensemble of a tenuously recovering meth addict and Jubal County's only hero. Howard tucks the coin into his sock and bends down to open his heavily dented, squeaky roll-up front door to his vista view of an overflowing dumpster. He stretches and steps out. Exterior, you store it, day. Howard snot rockets, clears his phlegmy throat and farts. Missy, off screen. Excuse me, is this 12 Magnolia Court? Missy, 20s, a little rough around her own edges, stands directly in front of his neighbor's door to the right, hugging a thick, messy folder. Shy Chloe, 5, hides behind her legs. Marsh, you're in the right place. He steps over and bangs on the thin metal door. Marsh, Corey, you got a lady. Woman, I have an appointment. Marsh, a lady with an appointment out here. A moment later, it rolls up.
Cool.
I think Lucky and Marsh should date.
You
what
go
do we
first,
think?
or you guys
Yeah,
go
you guys
first?
go first.
I feel really strongly on this one,
Me too.
personally.
I'm curious if we feel strongly about the same thing.
We'll see. I mean, well, I want to hear what Nathan thinks, and then I'll feel
No,
even more strongly.
you're up first.
D2. So D2 to me very much feels like the pro. I just thought there was some really fun writing. I really like the line "Jewel County's only here." That's just kind of fun. It ends on an intriguing kind of note. The description is really evocative. You know, it just, you know, it's really fun. the second one, sorry, the first one, D1, it's just a lot I didn't honestly connect with in it. The insane amount of detail given to what's in the milkshake and how it's prepared, in my opinion, not super necessary. But probably the thing I disliked, dislike is a strong word. The thing I didn't connect with the most was the transition to flashback, which, if you're not reading super closely, is only thrown into at the end of exterior San Francisco Tenderloin District day dash flashback.
Right. And if you're scanning
you did
down
not
the page,
see that, you would have no idea we just jumped back in time. It is a, unfortunately, I would say, a very artless way to do a flashback transition. There's also stuff I don't really understand. If Mom had stuck around, she never would have let us stay in that crap hole filled with even crappier birthdays. How can a place be filled with crappy birthdays? I don't even understand really what that means. Crappier memories, I guess, maybe. So, I don't mean to really beat up this page, but it feels to me like something that was written in a strong place of emotion, trying to convey what the main character is feeling and the difficult childhood that the main character clearly has had. I would say there's other stuff like young Lucky, this is at the bottom of the page. She huddles, so this girl is high strung, a little scared. Okay, that's fine. And needs her dad. Okay, well, but you can show me that, Is she hugging a photo of it? Like, there's just different ways to get that across. I mean, hugging the photo is the obvious thing, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
there's an A choice.
Right. What I'm saying, but to me, that would be a better choice than saying she needs her dad as a character description, because it's showing me legitimately, how would you display needs her dad? How would you display that in the actual scene? You're about to display it, by the way, when he stumbles in with a hooker and she's like, "Daddy, I love you. It's my birthday." And she's like, "That's cool, honey. I'm going to go with this hooker into the bedroom," or whatever happens, So it's written from a place of clearly of love and affection and empathy for the main character. But it feels to me like it's written without thinking of the reader, honestly, who's reading this and might be like, why is Lucky now 8 years old, and why there's so much description given to what's in a milkshake? You could, for me, if there's a paragraph or two that you could basically be like, she drinks a milkshake filled with whiskey, and move on to other stuff. Maybe there's a particular reason we need to know all those ingredients, and then it's a long pour, a really long pour. But to me, it just felt, whereas, D2, I was intrigued. It's fun. There's a weirdly similar kind of, there's things in there that you could argue that the ensemble of a tenuously recovering meth addict and Jubal Kennedy's only hero. Well, you could argue, but to me, that you're describing how he looks, and I feel like I know this person. I feel like this person is evoked to me. I feel like it's going to be a fun role for an actor to play, honestly. So that's obviously, I feel pretty strongly on this. Ian, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's D2. Although it's, the thing that makes it tough for me is that I read the character of Lucky's father, and I really see a lot of myself in him.
Well, you're so drunk that I couldn't even tell that you could tell that you could see the character.
Yeah, we didn't reveal this earlier, but Ian did not get up for this. He stayed up.
Yeah,
exactly.
For this. So.
It's amazing I'm even forming words right now. I feel like
have a good time all the time.
I feel like the visual writing in D2 is super strong. Like the starting on the image of the silver coin sipping skyward. Good. Like, yeah, I'm automatically grabbed by that.
Nathan and I are agreeing.
Yeah. I love the specificity of detail, like the fact that you figure out by the end of the this paragraph here that he's living inside one of those used storage. You get a sense of his place in the community here. They really get a lot of information about this character and the world he inhabits in this quick, easy to read way.
The only screw up looking at it again is that Missy is just given a line of dialogue. Missy, excuse me, is it's 12, and then it's I have an appointment, and it changes to woman, which should, I assume, still be Missy, not a separate person.
Oh yeah,
I just realized that. but that's not
Right,
a
yeah,
big,
that's yeah.
again,
See,
by the way, that's not a big deal. How much we like the page, that's more than a typo. That's like a screw up. You know, but it doesn't matter because we're so locked in.
yeah,
Agreed.
exactly. I didn't notice that until the second pass. I think the thing that gave away the first one for me as being not the pro is that when you know if you're writing a script about uh in this case an alcoholic, uh you can sometimes tell whether or not someone has done their homework and has done their research on it by the details that they choose. Like, I've never met an alcoholic whose drink of choice was an alcoholic milkshake. That feels sort of
It does feel like that might
like
connect to some larger thing
yeah.
in
I
the
mean,
script, though, to
maybe
be fair.
I get it why it's there thematically because she's still in the same superhero pajamas as a child. This is clearly a case of Arrested Development. She's just and she's
I loved that choice. That's a choice I really did like.
yeah, like so like that I feel like that there's an intention there. I guess the way that her addiction was presented so cartoonishly, uh that I didn't connect with.
Yeah. So you guys are going D2 strongly.
Very
Okay.
strongly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for me too, like I will say, like if the pages were swapped in order, I would have still picked D2, or like this D2, based on just that first paragraph, because we all know what a sobriety coin is, right? But I've never seen one flipped to make a decision. Like that's really cool. And then and then also the choice to not show us that decision
Yes.
and it's just great writing, right? Like, I mean, like you're very interested already right off the bat. And it just keeps going. And I also didn't notice the woman Missy thing because I was just engaged by the page. I will say I thought there was some cool stuff in D1. Like could you have spent 3 fewer paragraphs on the milkshake? Sure. But like, I thought it was written with a tone that felt fun. And as long as this is going to be some sort of comedy, that works. The interesting thing for me, though, the most interesting thing in the comparison of these two pages is when we were reading D1, I'm like, man, I've read so many scripts from newer writers, or at least like writers who haven't broken in yet, that start with somebody with an alcohol problem, like on page one. Like that happens a lot. And D2, like we're starting on a freaking coin and it's awesome. And it just shows you like if you
But
can
it's
if you
also
can
a meth
find
addict. It's a former meth addict.
yeah,
And
which is different
there's
than
probably
alcohol.
a more
But
standard way to describe that, right? Like he wakes up and he's like, no meth today,
right.
or something. He's like, no, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it in this interesting way.
So that's like that to me is the example of the JKLM choice, right? Like the person
Yes.
who like really, really thought about it and got the best version of that onto the page. So, but I mean, I think there was plenty to like on the first one, but it didn't feel unique in the same way, and it didn't grab me in the same way, whereas D2 had so much going on.
Wait, does anybody know what adult solo means?
I mean, he's saying you have to adult solo. You
Single
have
dad.
to
Like
parent
he's
solo.
single parent in a
Parent
Yeah.
solo.
unique way of saying it. Yeah, that's how
But
I
I
read it too.
suppose that again, that's a choice where the word to parent solo would have been more. Adulting solo is like, well, you know what I'm saying? Like she's adulting solo most
Yeah.
likely.
Right.
So it's again, it's
Just
a
don't have a
case of a
partner,
confusing word
you know.
choice.
Got it. Okay.
I think if like the right actor could say that and it would totally work, you know. But it is like in the read, like
But if you have to say that, that's a problem. That's
Yeah.
what I would say as a
I
rep
agree with you.
is I want to leave as little lack of confusion is death, is my personal belief. If someone is confused, they start to check out, they start to get less engaged, they start to get bored, honestly. Now, look, there's a difference between being willfully vague because you're trying to create a vibe, but confusion, if I'm confused about what you're trying to get across, and that's not the intent, then not great.
Well, exactly for the coin
On
that we
point.
don't see. The coin the fact that we don't see what the coin result ends up being, that
Right.
is a
It's
good
but that's
confusion.
a
That
but
is
that's
a
a that's a
yeah.
no, no, that's a choice.
That's
That's a
intrigue.
that's
That's-
not
That's
confusion.
mystery,
That's
yeah.
a mystery.
It's intrigue. It's not confusion. Like it's like,
Mhm. Who's
where
behind the door? That's
some
intrigue.
some great writer said this. I feel so bad I can't remember it, but like what they said was like, it might have actually been J.J. Abrams. I don't know, somebody. But anyway, it was like you never want to be like, you want to be curious about what happens next. You don't want to be curious about what's happening now, right? Like,
Yes.
and like, and I think that's the best way to put it. But anyway, does that mean you're going D2 as well, Joe?
Yeah, I'll be going with D2 as well.
Okay.
As much as I like, there's two things that I love.
By the way,
about
if we're wrong, my God, we have blown up over D2.
I mean, if I would happily read those 10 pages if we're wrong.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
true. That's
So,
accurate.
yeah, for me, the two things I loved about page one, which was just the visual of like a young, Charlize Theron's young adult, like just this visual of a woman, a grown woman in superhero pajamas holding ice cream and a bottle of whiskey. Even though it's a dynamic I've seen before, I very much gelled
It's
with
a
that.
strong setup.
Yeah, it's a great visual, but then it stays there. So I agree.
That's why I think to me it
maintain.
felt it was written out of emotion as opposed to kind of readable. It was written from a place of emotion, being like, I'm compelled to tell the story, but then not thinking like the flashback thing is a pretty big tell.
That's a big.
When you
I
move
agree.
between, but when you're moving between tenses or time periods in a script, it's something I pay a lot of attention to because again, that's where you end up with confusion. You have to be, and by the way, they're both in San Francisco, right? In an apartment, both places, right? And I'm assuming it's not the same apartment.
Right.
I mean, maybe it is, but like,
it's Collins and Lucky. So we have Lucky's apartment and then Collins' apartment. Yeah,
but
I didn't catch that.
Staying with this crappy hole. I was like, but my point being that you're shifting locations, like where you're shifting like 20 years earlier, essentially, or whatever the time. Yeah, I guess 15, 17 years earlier, or whatever the math is. But you're not. But the way to do it is like as we cut to, or we go back. You really have to tell people we are jumping back in time and how far we're jumping back in time, and just writing flashback like if you're reading this, like you would. There's a decent chance
you're scanning down more toward the left.
You're scanning
side
vertical. You're scanning center, and
it's hiding.
I totally agree.
You just don't typically put that. Flashback is put in scene description so that the production manager knows, okay, this scene, But also, by the way, the scene right after that, Colin's apartment living room, doesn't get flashback. I got to tell you, when I was first reading this, I thought that the only thing that was in flashback was this one shot of a rundown building because the next thing didn't have flashback.
The other thing I'm going to say too that stuck out to me on D1,
that's a great catch.
When we were reading D1 before we even got to D2, I'm like, the only clues I have to how this place looks are the fact that she's an alcoholic, and then when she starts to say like crap hole, right? But like it doesn't actually describe the apartment building, and so like I don't have a real sense of. I have a very good sense of the character and what she's doing, like the visual of the actions. I think that's written well. But I don't have a sense of the visual of the place that we're in. And I think that's really important to ground somebody.
I think clarity is paramount. That is one thing I would say that
clarity is paramount.
If you're a pro, an exec or a producer or an agent's going to read your stuff, or an actor or director, you don't want them at any point to be confused. And they're, like I said, the flashback transition is probably a really big confusion point.
Yeah.
I would also say, to me, this line, that crap hole filled with even crappier birthdays. Again, I don't really understand what that line means. It is a confusing line to me. I think I get the emotion of what you're trying to get across. Whereas in D2, there's literally Missy, the woman should be Missy, but because we're so pulled in and such a strong read, we didn't notice.
No.
Cool. All right, Jason, reveal it up, man.
All right, are y'all ready for the biggest upset of the show?
Wow.
Get the fuck out. No, wait. Really?
Just kidding. I got it right. D2 was the pro by Winona Wilms, and it's called The Redemption of Howard Marsh, based on the book series by Bob McGough, which she optioned the right to that.
No shit.
From Reddit.
That's
sick.
She
found it on Reddit.
That's cool.
She's also from Minnesota.
I was saying it felt like literary. It felt kind of literary to me.
Yeah,
that's cool.
From a adaptation of something.
She's also from Minnesota. She won the Nickel and the Austin with the same script. Not this one, but with the same script in 2018, which kind of launched her career. She's repped at UTA in forward management.
Sick.
She was in the WJ showrunner program, wrote for True Detective. She's got a lot of accolades. So
Oh, wow. All right.
yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
Yeah. And the first one was by Cheryl Laughlin.
Okay.
From her script
Totally
called
recognize her name. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's around Twitter as well, social media.
Yeah, I've definitely seen
she's
her
a writer and editor for the U.S. Forest Service.
Oh, that's cool.
And this script in particular was a finalist in the National Lampoon Search for Comedy Writing Gold.
Good. So you
TV
could
pilot.
tell it was a comedy right away, right? So like that's I think that's
I gotta tell you, I did not know that was a comedy.
Oh, really? I read that. I got that immediately. I was like, this is
I thought it reminded me of what's that Aaron Paul, Mary Elizabeth Winstead movie where they're both drunks? I forget it. Like it reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like to me, it felt like a dramedy is probably what I would describe it as.
Yeah.
Like when you're opening with someone like pouring whiskey down their throat and then it cuts to dad bringing a hooker home, I'm like, doesn't scream comedy immediately too, but obviously it could be, drama with
That's
like
more
a flavor of
dramedy.
kind of like looking at it,
Yeah. But anyway, sorry to cut you
sense
off,
of humor about it.
Yeah, that's all I was gonna say. And she's also a script columnist or a columnist for Script Magazine. So
cool. I do want to say thank you guys so much for doing this. I mean, it's super fun to have you on, and I think you shared some really cool insights. I love that we're on episode 4 of this, and like the conversation's different every single time.
yeah,
so
y'all are great.
It's awesome.
Y'all are great. Y'all crushed it.
So I'm sure everybody watching has learned like a lot. And to everybody watching, just hit those like and subscribe buttons and leave a comment to thank these guys and let us know what your favorite pages were and how you did with your own guesses. Do you guys want to add anything else before we close out here? Or?
Yeah.
No, I love that this show exists. I think that you're doing a huge service to the writing community. I wish that something like this had existed when I was coming up. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, this is phenomenal. I mean, the fact that I read scripts for a living and I like to watch when these videos come out. I remember I was somewhere. I think I was at the park, and me and my wife were at the park with my daughter, and my daughter's kind of running around, and I'm like, "Ooh, new President's Show video." Kind of watch it on my phone.
He never saw his daughter again.
Exactly. And I blame you for the fact that, yeah, exactly. By the way, I got my view here, but Ian lives in Hawaii, and he's not sharing the gorgeousness of the Hawaiian sunrise with us.
Yeah, right. What's up with that?
So I just gotta say, that's how you know Ian is
the impending
professional.
Where's the impending tangerine, man?
Impending tangerine. I got that line, by the way. I don't hate that.
Yeah,
line.
I thought that. I thought it worked. I liked it. But cool.
Thank you so much for having us on. It's fun to, now I don't have to watch this video. I can just watch it with my wife.
You don't have to watch it all.
And she'll be like, "Oh yeah, Dave, you messed up on Dave's." We almost went 4 for 4. We came pretty close.
It's hard to do it in real time too, right? Like, and it's like Joe or Jason's reading it, and you're like, okay, like making mental notes, and then you have to kind of say something immediately. Like, it's a little more challenging than if you were just kind of doing it on your own. But that's part of the fun. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you're a pro or amateur screenwriter, you'd like to submit a page for a future episode, just check out the link in the pinned comment below this video. If you're an amateur, we're trying to pick like exceptional first pages because we want it to be a good challenge. And also, part of this is about potentially giving a little bit of a boost to a writer. And so to do that, your page has to be able to fool people who are experienced as people like John and Ian. So if you have a page,
we're reading I believe an unrepped writer,
right?
As a result of this.
Exactly. So that's a huge thing for that writer. And it's super cool.
And I'm going to get endless shit from Dave Williams about it.
Yeah, yes, you are. But yeah, if you have a page that you think stacks up to what you've seen here, definitely submit. And thanks for watching, and we will see you all in the next one.